Central Park was a place of solace for Emily Ford. She would frequently sit on the same weathered bench, shaded by towering oaks, her face lifted to catch the breeze, while she absorbed the chorus of birdsong and the faint sounds of children's laughter in the distance. Her hand clutched the leather leash of Rex, her faithful German shepherd guide dog. Rex was more than a companion to her. He was her guardian, her vision, and her lifeline since a car accident had robbed her of her sight 5 years earlier. Despite the serene environment, Rex was uneasy. His ears flicked at each noise, his alert eyes sweeping the park as though expecting trouble. Across the park, Vince Dalton leaned on his motorcycle, encircled by a cluster of bikers in leather. With his large build, bald head, and ink-covered skin, Vince had an imposing presence. He caught sight of Emily sitting quietly with Rex. Her serene expression, combined with the dog's orderly stance, seemed to irritate him. Dropping his cigarette butt, Vince sneered, "Look at that, a princess with her perfect little dog," provoking laughter from his group. Vince's boots clomped on the concrete as he advanced across the park towards Emily. Rex sensed him first. The dog's ears stood alert, his frame tensed, and a deep growl echoed from him. Feeling the leash tighten, Emily turned her head towards the sound of the approaching steps. "Hey there," Vince said mockingly, his voice oozing sarcasm. "Nice dog you've got there. Does he do tricks? Maybe he can jump through hoops or roll over for us." Emily's grip on Rex's leash tightened, her heartbeat accelerating. She couldn't see the man, but the malice in his voice was unmistakable. "Leave us alone," she stated firmly, her voice hiding the fear that was rising within her. Yet Vince persisted. He clapped his hands sharply, trying to rile Rex. The dog remained composed, his intense eyes fixed on Vince, though his growl grew louder. "Oh, tough guy, huh?" Vince jeered, edging closer. By this time, several onlookers had stopped to witness the scene, but none stepped forward. Feeling the crowd's gaze, Vince escalated the situation. He lifted his foot as though to kick Rex. The German shepherd's growl turned into a fierce, guttural warning. Emily shouted, "Don't you dare!" What Vince didn't realize was that Rex was no ordinary dog. Before becoming Emily's guide, Rex had served as a canine military service dog, trained for high-stakes missions and equipped to neutralize far more formidable threats than this. As Vince's foot edged closer, Rex's military training kicked in, his muscles coiled, and his steady gaze remained locked on the looming threat. The park became eerily quiet, the atmosphere charged with suspense as bystanders held their breath, waiting to see what would unfold. Vince's mocking laughter rang out, breaking the silence as he lifted his foot higher, reveling in the drama he was stirring. "Come on, Mutt, show me what you've got," he taunted. Emily's grip on Rex's leash grew even tighter, her fingers turning pale with the strain. She couldn't see the unfolding confrontation, but she could feel the charged, ominous atmosphere. Rex, on his part, was a statue of tension, his body taut like a coiled spring. His growls deepened, a clear warning to Vince that he was courting danger. The small crowd that had assembled watched in suspended anticipation, some filming the scene, others muttering under their breath. "Someone should stop him," a woman whispered. Yet no one moved to intervene. Emily's voice broke through the tension, tinged with desperation. "Leave us alone. He's not just a dog. He'll defend himself." Instead of heeding the warning, Vince's audacity grew. "Defend himself?" he scoffed. "He's just a big lapdog. Watch this." As Vince thrust his foot at Rex, the German shepherd reacted with astonishing agility. Dodging the kick, he let out a sharp, authoritative bark that echoed across the park. In a seamless move, he positioned himself between Emily and Vince, his fierce teeth exposed, eyes firmly on the aggressor. This was not merely a pet reacting. This was the calculated response of a trained professional, a guardian ready to neutralize any threat. Vince recoiled, taken aback by the fierce determination emanating from Rex. In that fleeting instant, time seemed to freeze. Emily, gripping Rex's leash, sensed the stir of his body and the strain permeating the air. She felt a shift in the atmosphere. "Rex," she murmured, her voice quivering. The dog paid her no heed, his gaze locked on Vince, poised for the next move. Vince's demeanor had shifted too. The smirk that once played on his lips had vanished, replaced by a trace of apprehension. "What's with this dog?" he mumbled, his tone shifting from scornful to unsure. Around them, whispers fluttered and smartphones captured the unfolding scene as a park ranger made his way through the crowd. "What's the situation here?" he inquired assertively. Vince's false bravado dissolved under the gaze of the gathering crowd. Rex maintained his stance, his posture clearly signaling that any further provocation from Vince would be met unfavorably. Emily breathed out slowly, feeling a slight easing in the leash's tension, though the threat lingered. Vince edged back, his hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. "Calm down, I was just having a bit of fun. The dog's overreacting," he claimed. His earlier assurance drained away. The ranger, positioning himself between Vince and Emily, folded his arms and fixed Vince with a severe look. "You think threatening a guide dog is having fun? And that's not only irresponsible, it's also against the law." Emily held tightly to Rex's leash, her hand still shaking. Rex stood resolute in front of her, his intense eyes locked on Vince. The air was thick with tension, amplified by the whispering crowd. The ranger's voice was calm, yet forceful as he continued. "This dog is simply performing his duty to protect her, and it seems he's doing a far better job at his duties than you are at being a decent person." Vince's smirk completely disappeared under the weight of the ranger's rebuke. Rex's low growl persisted, prompting Emily to gently touch his head and whisper, "Good boy, Rex," her voice shaky but filled with appreciation. The surrounding crowd was quiet, some capturing the moment with their phones, others speaking in subdued tones. Suddenly, an elderly man stepped forward, sunlight glinting off his faded military cap. His voice pierced the murmurs, "That's no ordinary dog." His expression was serious, marked by lines of experience, as he pointed straight at Rex. "I recognize that stance. That's a K9. The crowd let out a collective gasp, and even Vince seemed startled. Emily looked puzzled as she turned to the man. "What do you mean?" "He's my guide dog," she said, her grip on the leash tightening, her voice a soft murmur. The old man moved closer, his nod slow and deliberate. "He may be your guide dog now, miss, but I'd wager he's served before this. That concentration, that bark, their instincts, the kind you see in a trained military dog." The revelation washed over Emily, overwhelming her. She knelt beside Rex, her fingers weaving through his dense fur as she looked at him anew. "Rex," she breathed out, her voice laced with wonder and disbelief. She had always recognized Rex's remarkable nature, but the depth of his history was a startling discovery. The man spoke again, his tone laden with reverence. "Dogs like him are heroes. They've been molded for battlefields to safeguard soldiers and neutralize dangers. His reaction to this man stems from seeing a potential threat." His eyes briefly hardened as he glanced at Vince, who now appeared distinctly uneasy. Vince's swagger had completely dissipated. Retreating further, his posture sagged. "I didn't realize," he whispered, his tone faint. The ranger moved closer, his voice firm. "Not knowing doesn't excuse your behavior. You're fortunate this dog exercised restraint." Rex's stance softened somewhat, yet his vigilant eyes remained fixed on Vince, ensuring no further missteps. Emily let out a tremulous breath, her pulse racing as she absorbed the newfound knowledge about Rex. The crowd around them buzzed with newfound respect, their gaze fixed on Rex, who had transcended the role of a mere guide dog in their eyes to that of a valiant protector. The ranger's expression blended authority with disdain as he addressed Vince. "You're done here," he commanded sharply, signaling for Vince to leave. Yet Vince hesitated, his eyes darting anxiously between Rex and the elderly man who had unveiled Rex's true background. The crowd's whispers intensified, and someone called out, "Call the cops!" Vince muttered a curse, his facade of toughness dissolving under the collective scrutiny. Rex, somewhat more at ease but still alert, continued to watch Vince steadfastly, ready to intervene if provoked again. Around Emily, the scene seemed to whirl chaotically. Rex, a military dog. Her thoughts echoed the old man's revelations about combat zones, soldiers, and threats. She knelt next to Rex, her touch gentle yet shaky as she caressed his fur. "Rex," she murmured softly, her tone one of reverence, as though reaching out to understand a part of him that until now had been hidden. He tilted his head towards her, his eyes momentarily softening before returning to Vince. His steadfast look conveyed such loyalty, it overwhelmed her with emotion. Who was this dog that had been her trusted companion for years? The older man approached again, his face serious yet gentle. "Ma'am, you should know that dogs like him never really lose their training. It's deep inside them, ready to emerge when they sense you need them. And today, he believed you did." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she recalled every instance Rex had appeared overly vigilant or protective, every bark that had halted her suddenly. She had always considered him merely a guide, but now she recognized he had always been much more. Meanwhile, Vince grew increasingly uncomfortable. Okay, he grumbled, stepping back. "I meant no harm." The park ranger was unconvinced. "That's not yours to decide," he retorted sharply. "You've caused enough trouble." Vince shuffled towards the exit, his shoulders drooping, with the ranger ensuring he made no return. The crowd slowly began to thin, though some remained, their eyes still on Emily and Rex. The older man stayed too, observing Rex with an expression of deep respect. As the crowd's whispers died down, Emily sat silently on the bench, stroking Rex's back. "You've always been my guardian," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But I never realized the extent you'd go to protect me." Rex remained by her side, now serene, his eyes sweeping the park, as if to confirm the threat was truly gone. For Emily, the park had transformed from a tranquil retreat into a place where she encountered an unexpected truth, one that altered her perception of Rex and herself forever. That evening, she found herself perched on the edge of her modest sofa, gazing at Rex as he lay at her feet. The day's events spun in her mind, a tumult of Vince's hostility, the park ranger's timely intervention, and most significantly, the unveiling of Rex's history. Her hand paused above her laptop keyboard, uncertain. What exactly should she look for? Despite her initial hesitation, the words "military K-9 history" eventually formed in her mind, leading her to delve into numerous articles and accounts. Her grasp of Rex's background expanded. These dogs were not merely trained, they were true warriors. Trained to sniff out dangers, shield their handlers, and maintain composure under duress, each attribute resonated with Rex's behavior that day. Yet it also triggered more questions. What had he endured? Who had been his companions in arms? How had he come to be hers? The thought of Rex facing perilous situations filled Emily with a mix of pride and sorrow. She shut her laptop and slid to the floor next to him. As she stroked his dense fur, she murmured softly, "I've always relied on you, Rex. But now I truly understand the depth of who you are. You've endured so much, haven't you?" At the sound of her voice, Rex's ears perked up, and he snuggled closer to her. For the first time, Emily felt more than just reliance on him. She felt a profound bond, sculpted by Rex's silent strength and his steadfast devotion. The following day, Emily took action. She reached out to the local veterans organization, detailing the recent events and inquiring about any information on Rex's past. The woman on the other end of the phone promised to investigate. Many retired K-9s are transitioned into new roles, such as guiding or therapy work, she explained. It helps them maintain a sense of purpose after their service. The word purpose resonated deeply with Emily, now laden with new meaning. Rex hadn't merely been assigned to assist her. He had been protecting her in ways she was only beginning to grasp. After the conversation concluded, Emily crouched next to Rex once more. "We'll figure it out together," she assured him, offering a gentle smile. Rex responded with a soft wag of his tail, his serene presence providing comfort. No matter what they would learn about his past, Emily was certain of one thing. Rex was more than her guide. He was her protector, her ally, and her hero. A week since the incident at the park, the mystery of Rex's background still haunted Emily. Each quiet moment seemed to echo the older man's words from that day. That's a K9. He's trained for combat. Rex had always been extraordinary, but the realization of how little she truly knew about his former life struck her profoundly. While she had come to rely on his guidance, she now felt a deep responsibility to understand and honor the life he had led before joining hers. One afternoon, as Emily was gearing up for her routine walk with Rex, her phone vibrated. She didn't recognize the incoming number, but answered swiftly, her heart racing with anticipation. "Miss Ford, this is Karen from the Veterans Organization." A soothing voice greeted. "I've managed to uncover some details about your dog." Emily inhaled sharply, waiting for more. Karen revealed, "Your dog's military ID corresponds to a retired K9 named Bravo. He served overseas with a handler named Sergeant Jake Carter. They completed numerous missions together before Bravo was retired." The name Bravo resonated oddly with Emily, sending a chill down her spine. "Bravo," she echoed, the name foreign yet somehow fitting. Karen continued, "Sergeant Carter retired a few years back and currently resides in Montana. I can give you his contact details if you wish. He might have more to share about Bravo's service." Emily scribbled down the information, her hands shaking. After hanging up, she gazed at Rex, who lay peacefully at her feet, ever vigilant. "Bravo," she murmured again. The name was dense with a past she had yet to fully grasp. That evening, Emily sat on her couch, phone in hand, rehearsing her words to Sergeant Carter. Anxiety gripped her. The thought of dredging up potentially painful memories for Carter made her hesitate. What if he preferred to leave the past undisturbed? Yet as she watched Rex, her reliable guardian for years, she knew she had a duty to piece together his backstory. Steeling herself, she finally pressed the call button. The phone rang twice before a deep, raspy voice picked up. "Hello." The sound sent a shiver through Emily, but she composed herself. "Hi, is this Sergeant Jake Carter? My name is Emily Ford, and I believe I have your former K9, Bravo." There was a lengthy silence, making Emily wonder if the connection had been lost. Then Jake's voice returned, laden with surprise and emotion. "Bravo? Really? I never thought I'd hear about him again." Emily felt tears brimming as she heard the emotion swirling in Jake's voice. "He's been with me for a few years now," she spoke gently. "I only discovered his history recently. He has saved my life in ways I can hardly articulate." Jake inhaled sharply, his voice trembling. "He saved mine too, more times than I can recount. I need to see him." In that moment, Emily realized that this was merely the opening of a new chapter, not only for her, but also for Bravo, and the man who had once been his greatest ally. The days following her conversation with Sergeant Jake Carter seemed endless. Jake had arranged to fly over at the earliest to meet Bravo. Although Emily attempted to maintain her usual daily activities, the anticipation of their reunion permeated every moment with an electric sense of expectancy. She pondered how Bravo would react. Would he recognize Jake? Could this reunion alter the deep bond they now shared? Questions swirled in her mind as she braced herself for the poignant day that lay ahead. On the afternoon Jake was set to arrive, Emily stood with Rex outside her modest apartment. She felt the leash quiver slightly in her grasp as Rex adjusted his stance, picking up on her nervousness. "It's going to be okay, Rex," she whispered, her words a comfort meant as much for herself as for him. A car pulled up and the sound of a door slamming broke the silence. Moments later, Jake's deep voice called out, "Emily!" His voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness. Emily gave a nervous smile. "Yes, I'm Emily," she replied, and with a slight catch in her voice, She gestured towards Rex. "And this is Bravo." At the mention of his old name, Rex's ears twitched alertly. Jake paused, his gaze fixing on the dog. He then crouched slowly and reached out his hand. "Hey there, boy," he murmured, his voice shaking. "Do you remember me?" Rex remained motionless, his muscles taut. As the tense seconds passed, Emily held her breath until Rex cautiously stepped forward to sniff Jake's hand. At first, the change was subtle, but then Rex's tail started to wag and he whimpered softly. Tears welled up in Jake's eyes as he gently patted the dog's head. "You remember, don't you?" he whispered tenderly. Hearing the emotion in his voice, Emily felt her own tears starting to form. She had always known Rex was exceptional, but witnessing the profound bond between him and Jake deepened her appreciation. As they moved indoors, Jake began sharing tales of their days together in the service. "Bravo was my partner on every mission," he shared. "He saved my life countless times. He was brave, and I never imagined I'd see him again." Emily listened closely, stroking Rex's fur as Jake spoke of their shared experiences. Though filled with peril and sacrifice, the warmth and reverence in Jake's stories about Rex were unmistakable. That evening, as Jake was about to leave, he knelt by Rex, looking into his eyes. "You've got a good life now, boy," he spoke, his voice laden with emotion. "I couldn't have asked for a better person to look after you." Emily's heart clenched at his words. "Thank you for trusting me with him," she whispered back. Jake rose and offered a small, reassuring smile. "He's in the right place." Watching him walk away, Emily turned to Rex and said, "You've been through so much, but you're home now, no matter what." In the days following Jake's visit, Emily found herself constantly reflecting on the tales he had shared about Rex, or Bravo, as he had called him. The accounts of his valor in battle, his quick wit under stress, and his steadfastness amidst peril depicted a dog whose experiences surpassed what most humans could fathom. This realization filled her with both admiration and a touch of sorrow. Each time she felt his fur or relied on him to guide her across the street, she wondered how much of his dedication was shaped by the hardships of his past. One quiet afternoon, Emily chose to take Rex to a secluded part of the park, a spot she had avoided since her unsettling encounter with Vince. The memories of that day still haunted her, yet now her perspective had shifted. Rex was no longer just her guide dog, he was her guardian, a warrior who had bestowed upon her his trust. As they strolled along the pathway, she softly told him, "I hope you know how much you mean to me. You've served so many, yet you choose to stay by my side every day." Rex nudged her leg gently in response, as if acknowledging her words. Emily smiled and settled on a bench, letting him lie down at her feet. The park was tranquil with only the whisper of leaves in the breeze. For the first time in weeks, a deep sense of peace washed over her. But Emily's mind lingered on a phrase Jake had shared during his visit. "He doesn't forget his training. It's always there, just waiting." She pondered whether Rex might long for that former life, the rush of adrenaline, the peril, the constant sense of purpose. That evening, driven by a need to understand more, not only about Rex's past, but also about how to respect it, she dialed Jake's number once more. "Jake," she began. Once he answered, "I've been reflecting on what you said. Do you think Bravo, might miss his old life?" There was a brief silence on the line before Jake responded. "He might in his own way, but dogs like him don't dwell on the past. They devote themselves to their people, and right now, Emily, you're his mission." Jake's words echoed in her mind long after their conversation had ended. You're his mission. Emily had always regarded Rex as her lifeline, the guide through a world unseen by her. But now, she realized their connection was not merely one of dependency. It was reciprocal. She provided Rex with a purpose just as he instilled her with the confidence to embrace life anew. Their relationship was truly a partnership in every sense. That evening, as Emily sat on the floor beside Rex, she whispered into the quiet, "I'll make sure you know how much you're loved every single day." Feeling Rex press against her, his warm presence anchoring her in the moment, brought Emily an unparalleled sense of comfort. She knew, regardless of what future challenges they might face, they would confront them together. In the weeks that followed, Emily's understanding of her relationship with Rex deepened. Learning about his past didn't alter their bond. Rather, it enriched it. Each time he guided her across a street or nudged her away from danger, she reflected on the battles he had endured, not just in combat, but in adjusting to his new life with her. However, one question continued to haunt her nights. Was she truly providing him the life he deserved? One morning, as Emily savored her coffee, she stumbled upon an article discussing the challenges retired military dogs face, transitioning to civilian life. It detailed how many canines struggled with the loss of the rigid structure from their training days, with some exhibiting signs of restlessness or depression due to a lack of purpose. Glancing down at Rex, who was curled up contently at her feet, Emily wondered if she might be overlooking subtle cues of dissatisfaction. The thought of Rex possibly harboring a silent yearning for more purpose in his life deeply concerned her. Motivated to ensure Rex's happiness, Emily started looking into ways to enrich his daily routine. She discovered programs tailored for retired service dogs that offered activities mimicking their former training environments. Eager to explore this opportunity, Emily called one such organization that afternoon. She shared Rex's background with the person on the phone, who responded with evident enthusiasm. "We'd love to evaluate Rex," the woman said warmly. "These sessions are designed not just to keep them active, but to provide a deep sense of fulfillment. It sounds like Rex would really benefit from this." The next week, Emily and Rex arrived at a sprawling facility designed for retired military dogs, complete with open fields, obstacle courses, and designated areas for training exercises. As they passed through the gates, Rex's demeanor changed, his ears perked up, and his tail wagged gently, a sign of his renewed vitality. Emily sensed his excitement and began to wonder if this was the piece that had been missing in his new life. A trainer greeted them warmly, kneeling to meet Rex at his level. "This must be Bravo," she said with a smile. "Let's see what he remembers." Rex was soon led through various exercises, tracking, agility, and scent detection. Emily observed from a nearby bench, her heart swelling as Rex demonstrated skills that lay dormant, moving with a precision and confidence that was strikingly different from his everyday demeanor. It seemed that a part of him, previously subdued, was now fully reinvigorated. After the session, the trainer returned with a look of admiration. "He's incredible," she commented. "It's as if he never left the service." Emily felt a mix of pride and a poignant realization of Rex's undiminished capabilities. That evening, back in the comfort of their home, Emily knelt by Rex, gently stroking his fur. "You're amazing," she whispered, her eyes moist with emotion. "I never want you to lose that part of yourself. Whatever you need, we'll figure it out together." Rex responded by leaning into her, his presence a comforting reassurance. For Emily, the day had illuminated not just Rex's past, but his needs and potential. Rex was not only her guide, but also Bravo, a dog whose story and spirit were far from finished. In the weeks after Rex's assessment at the training center, Emily found herself settling into a fresh routine. Each Saturday, they revisited the facility where Rex engaged in training specifically tailored for retired canines. It was evident that he excelled in these settings, tracking down smells, overcoming obstacle courses, and following commands with the accuracy of a much younger dog. Seeing him act so purposefully brought a sense of pride to Emily, and it also enhanced her appreciation of Rex's true nature. One afternoon, following a particularly impressive training session, the trainer took Emily aside. "Rex is outstanding," she remarked. "He's not merely a retired canine, he's among the best I've encountered. It's uncommon to find such focus and discipline in a dog who's been inactive for so long." Emily managed to smile, though a sense of melancholy weighed on her heart. She recognized the joy Rex found in these activities, but she also fretted over how to meet his needs while managing her own. "Do you think he's really happy?" Emily asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. The trainer's face softened. "For dogs like him, happiness comes from having a purpose. And Emily, you are part of that purpose." Later that evening, as Emily sat next to Rex in her cozy living room, she pondered the trainer's words. Rex rested at her feet, his breathing even, his presence ever soothing. She reflected on all that he had provided over the years, his guidance, his protection, his constant loyalty. She had always thought she relied on him, but now she understood the reliance was mutual. "You've never stopped being a hero, have you?" she murmured, caressing his fur. "Even now, you're still taking care of me." Not long afterward, Emily got a call from Jake Carter. His voice was warm and inviting, and they spoke for nearly an hour about Rex's recent achievements. When Emily shared details of the training sessions, Jake laughed. "That's the Bravo I remember," he said. "But remember, his most important role is with you. You're his family now." Jake's words lingered with Emily long after their conversation had ended. Rex's circumstances might have shifted, but his core mission, to protect the ones he loved, remained steadfast. One quiet evening, while on a walk, Emily and Rex paused at a bench in the park, a place that had become significant weeks earlier when Rex's history had come to light. As Emily settled onto the bench, the cool evening air enveloped her. "You've been through so much," she whispered, her voice filled with appreciation. "Yet, regardless of your past or what you've experienced, you've chosen to stay by my side. I'll always cherish that."
Rex seemed to grasp her sentiments, pressing against her leg with his calm, solid presence, anchoring her. In that tranquil moment, Emily silently vowed to respect Rex's history while forging a future in which he felt both fulfilled and cherished. For Emily, sharing her life with a companion as remarkable as Rex, who had been a warrior, a mentor, and most importantly, her steadfast friend, was an immense honor.